were before you got into politics and then coming here, and then how that experience has been in governance, and then what do you look for in youth, in youngsters? And because we have a bunch of passionate people who want to participate in nation building, in policy making, but they don't know the avenues of how to do it effectively. And I think your experience will be very helpful to them as they navigate this journey.
Thank you, Bharat.
Thank you, sir.
But if I have to narrate all that, I think it'll take longer than
No. You choose experts of each.
No.
Yeah.
Thanks. Good morning to all of you. Thank you, Bharat, for inviting me. When I got the invitation, I was a bit intrigued because I haven't been to any school on public policy in India so far. Because normally, wherever I go, I've been to IITs, I've been to, other colleges such as engineering colleges and, other business management colleges and several others. But firstly, let me compliment the management of Geetam, for thinking about a school in public policy, because, we keep hearing about Kennedy, we keep hearing about many other, in fact, schools. But what's really heartening is that even in India now we have institutions such as Geetam who've taken the, first move and said, this is something that we ought to be doing. So therefore, and I'm glad that it is in Hyderabad. So all the more reason for us to be more excited. I'm obviously, as many of you might know, or for those of you who don't know, I'm a second generation politician. So I've seen my father from very close quarters from a very early age. So I was always intrigued. I was always curious. I was always obviously interested, so to speak. If not directly, but indirectly, I was always interested in public life, wanting to find out more, more about it, etc. Because, the questions that would cross a kid's mind when you see his father or mother being in politics is, why do they not spend time with me like any normal parent? That's typically what initially would cross through your mind. So having gone through a lot of those questionings, a lot of that, inner, introspection, so to speak, I think it was natural that at a later stage in my formative years, I understood the importance of the job that my father was doing as a public representative. He was an MLA, he was then a minister, he was then, he worked in a variety of roles. So one thing I've realized as I grew up, my father always wanted me to be Indian Administrative Service officer. In fact, Mr. B.R. Meena is here, who worked very closely with us. Meena Saab was our Special Chief Secretary, I think, when he retired. And now he works here with you guys. You're fortunate to have somebody as experienced as Meena ji is to guide you guys. So one of the things he wanted me to be was, write UPSC and be an officer. So it's not like my father actually trained me. It's not like he actually wanted me to follow in his footsteps. In fact, most of you may not know this, and this might come as a surprise also. In fact, I came in without his knowledge. I came in and joined public life without his knowledge. Let me just quickly narrate the story to you. So initially, when he said that I should write my UPSC exam and then become an officer, he said, for you to understand the kind of work an Indian Administrative Service officer would do, or even aspiring students, who kind of give these UPSC exams, you need to go to Delhi. So he sent me to JNU for almost 2 months. So I lived in, Delhi, Lutyens, for a bit, and went and, kind of got a first-hand experience. I didn't enroll myself in JNU, but I hung around with a few friends because I had a few friends there. I hung around there, I was looking at all kinds of people there. One thing that struck me, as very, very interesting at JNU was, there was something written on the wall there. It said, in a democracy when, we are the world's largest democracy, you guys know that. In a democracy when everything is decided by politics, you better decide what your future politics is. This was what was written. It was intriguing. I said, what is this? What does it mean? What it basically means is, from the time we get up in the morning till the time we go to bed every single day, every single thing that kind of has a direct or an indirect impact on us as individuals, as citizens, is essentially decided by the governments, both either in Delhi, that is the union government, or the state government. So it is important, if not to dabble directly in politics or to, if not to run for a public office, it is important that we are politically aware. It is important that we participate in the process. It is important for us to know what our ideology is, or it is important for us to know who stands for what. I think it's important for us to understand that. And to that direction, I think a School of Public Policy, of course, is a great step. I compliment all of you 50 students who are enrolled here from 18 states, I was told. My compliments to all of you on wanting to be a part of the process. Now, I have, after my master's in biotechnology from Pune University, I've left for the US. I told my father that, after seeing JNU and after, in fact, a cousin of mine, a first cousin of mine, was an Indian Forest Service officer. So I interacted with him a bit, and he said, listen, if you want to make, if you want the material comforts of life, and if you want, not just fame, but also the other material comforts and other things in life, then this is not for you. If you want to serve the nation, if you just are content, doing good service, then this is the role. Otherwise, don't join. But obviously, I was 21, I think. I said, all my friends are rushing to the US. Let me go and get my master's also there. So I went to the US. I have a master's in business administration as well. And then eventually I started working there. It was a dot-com boom then. Now it's called startups. But back then it was called dot-com. This was 98, 99. So I worked for a bit. I worked there till 2004. And in 2004, I came back to India on my own job. In fact, I was heading the entire South Asian region for my company. And from 2004 until 2006, I worked out of Bombay. I was traveling the entire South Asia except Pakistan, where I was not given a visa. Otherwise, I would have gone there too. I went to Bangladesh. I went to Sri Lanka. I went to Nepal. I went to, of course, I was based out of Bombay and Hyderabad. So I worked there. And then in 2006, the Telangana Rashtra Samiti, which was headed by the current Chief Minister and our party president, Sri Chandrasekhar Rao Garu, was part of the UPA. And then the whole premise of that coalition with Congress back in 2004 was the Telangana statehood formation. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. So he resigned, he quit UPA and resigned his parliament membership in 2006. And without even informing my party president and my father, I just jumped, quit my job without telling him. And I started working. Because I knew for a fact that if I asked him, then he would say no. So I said, okay, this is not happening. And then I just wanted to play my role, do my thing, and just be supportive of him. That's how the journey started. From 2006 until 2009, I worked as a party worker. In 2008, I think it was, I was given the general secretaryship of the party. 2009, I contested, won with a narrow margin of 171 votes from a constituency which is about 140 kilometers from here, called as Sirsila. It's a textile town in Telangana, hub of power looms. I won with a narrow margin, 171 votes. But within a year of 2009, I had resigned, as a protest against the then government reneging on its promise. On 9th of December 2009, Union government had announced that they are initiating the process of formation of Telangana. And then within 15 days, they went back and they said it is not something that they are going to, commit to. So we had resigned in protest. And in that subsequent by-election that came up in 2010 February, I won back with about 89,000 votes. We wanted to register that voice of the people, that mood of the people to the nation, that, Telangana and its citizens are, keenly wanting a separate state, and union government cannot go back on its promise. And then came 2014 election, by which time, the pressure mounted on the union government. They had to concede Telangana. And in 2014, Telangana was formed. I won the election in 2014, became a minister. 2018, again, we went to polls, won it again. And so this is my brief journey, politically speaking. Now, going back to Bharat's point about how the journey has been and what challenges we face in terms of policy, in terms of politics, in terms of a lot of things. Back in 2014, there were 3 or 4 questions that I used to get asked every so often by the media, by my friends, everybody. They used to ask me, why should Telugus be separated? Why do we need 2 separate states? I said, why separation, firstly? Secondly, the question that we used to get asked was, will it be viable? Will it work? What is the need? How can it work, etc. The third thing is, which is a bit derogatory, but we used to get this question all the time. Does the leadership of, does the current leadership in Telangana have it, do they have it in them to run a state? Do you have that leadership abilities? It was derogatory, it was humiliating, to get that question, but we used to get that. Do you have it in you, actually, to be able to run a state? This was a question. So just to put it in a capsule, the journey that started in 2014 on the 2nd of June as a new state for Telangana was something that was, was something that kind of started on a very interesting note. There were a lot of apprehensions. There were a lot of doubts. There were a lot of prejudices, that this party which ran this agitation, the Telangana Rashtra Samiti, since it was voted to power, how will they treat people from other regions who are residing in this state? How will they be able to handle, all the aspirations of the people? All these questions are obviously there. Now, when you look back 7 years, and when you think, about what the doubts were, a couple of things were also said. The then Chief Minister, Mr. Kiran Kumar Reddy, had famously said that, if Telangana becomes a state, the state would be under complete darkness. The power generating stations are all in coastal Andhra and Rayalaseema. So therefore, Telangana will be a power deficit state and you won't even have 24 hours of power. Not even 24. In fact, he said, you'd be in a gloom. That's what he said. And it was also said that forget about new investments. Forget about new investments, fresh investments. Even the existing investors would run away from Hyderabad and would desert and would leave Telangana. So the youth of Telangana would be really, groping in the dark when it comes to employment opportunities. So these were all the, this was a cloud of suspicion, cloud of apprehension, as I put it. This was what was the situation back in 2014. In fact, there was a state, the state of affairs was so bad. There was a time before 2014. Normally, you see people protesting for, electricity. Like you have ordinary people, you have farmers, you have others who kind of do hartal when the power supply is not good. But in United Andhra Pradesh, back in the time of 2013 and thereabout, we had a situation where we had the industrialists of Telangana doing hartals at Dharna Chowk here. That's how bad the situation was. When our Honorable Chief Minister assumed office, in 2014 June, he assured people of three things. He said, law and order would be a top priority. He said, we'll focus on fundamentals and we will ensure that whatever promises we have made, to the people during the statehood agitation will be fulfilled. If you look back and see what has been achieved in the last 7 years, today Telangana, in fact, is a leader on a number of fronts. Telangana, when it was part of United Andhra Pradesh, was one of those regions which was drought prone, which was heavily dependent on, rains, because the crop pattern, etc., and even the irrigation potential here was never, fulfilled. It was undermined all along. So it was heavily dependent, on rains and heavily dependent on groundwater. And the Telangana farmers, if you look at it, the number of suicides and the backwardness in this region was one among the highest in the country. In fact, a district here called as Mehboob Nagar in Telangana was one of the most backward districts in the entire country. In United Andhra Pradesh, there were two districts, Anantapur and Mehboob Nagar. These two districts were consistently top of the charts whenever Government of India released a report on backwardness, on suicides, on migration, etc., etc. These were the two districts that always used to be on top of the charts. So that was a situation. Within 6 months of assuming office, our Honorable Chief Minister, with his abilities, has been able to solve the first and foremost challenge that was faced by everybody in Telangana. That was the issue of power, electricity. Now, a lot of people ask us, how did you do it? How did your Chief Minister do it? How did your government do it? The fact is, our thermal power generating stations, our hydel power generating stations, our solar, etc., have been operating extremely efficiently now. The PLF is something that we can really boast about, that we can really consider, we can gloat about, in fact. The second thing we've done is we've ensured that all sectors, all three important sectors, industry, farmers, and domestic consumers, all of them today in Telangana receive 24 hours of uninterrupted power supply. And Telangana is the only state in the country, in fact, which actually delivered on the 24-hour free power promise to the farmers. Now, a lot of questions about whether free power is a good thing, bad thing, there are lots of questions on subsidies, etc., that we can come to during Q&A. But what else have we achieved in the last 7 years? Now if you look at the installed capacity of power before June 2nd, 2014, it was 7,780 megawatts. Now today, within 7 years of Telangana, the installed capacity of power in Telangana is more than 16,000 megawatts. We've more than doubled our power output. The per capita consumption, typically per capita consumption of power is one barometer for progress of any economy. Today, Telangana is the #1 state when it comes to per capita consumption of power. Now that is again truly an astounding story if you look at it in terms of where we were and where we've achieved. We have already crossed, in fact, I think it was last June, we've already crossed the combined United Andhra Pradesh's power demand. The highest peak demand was about 12,000 megawatts or something. We've already crossed that as a separate state now, as a smaller state, in the last, in this year, I think in the month of June or May. So that's how much, the power consumption has grown. It can be attributed to industrial expansion. It can be attributed to agriculture expansion. It can be attributed, of course, to increased domestic consumption also. So that's how Telangana has been growing. The other thing which is fascinating about Telangana is our Honorable Chief Minister is a man who comes from grassroots. So he said we'll focus on fundamentals. Today I'm proud to share with you that Telangana is the first state in India. I mean, after 75 years of independence, it's a shame that we have to boast about this, but nevertheless I have to say it. We are the first state in India which has been able to completely connect each and every rural household with a portable drinking water tap. And this is not me saying it. This is the Jal Shakti mission, or Jal Jeevan mission, I think it's called, in Delhi, in Union government. They have actually said it on the floor of the House in Parliament. The Water Resources Minister has said Telangana is the largest state which has got 100% rural household tap connectivity. Now, this is a unique distinction. This was done with $9 billion of investment. Now, what are the challenges that one faces when conceiving such a project? I was a minister who was looking after rural water supply when this project was envisioned by our Honorable Chief Minister. In fact, I should share this with you. He had done the same project in his constituency back in 1998. As an MLA, as a minister from Siddipet, Shri K. Chandrasekhar Rao ji has completed the same project in 98 in his own constituency with 108 crores of rupees. So the same thing was to be replicated at a state level. That was his vision. So initially we said, okay, what are the best examples in the country as to who's done what when it comes to drinking water? We received a letter from Prime Minister Modi saying, we please study the Gujarat model and how they've done drinking water supply, to even the most parched areas such as Kutch, etc. So I myself have led a delegation of officers and a few legislators also to study what has been done in Gujarat. When we reached there, we met with the officers, we met with the bureaucrats, we met with the ministers, and we met with the other people who were involved in the project. They said, it took us about 8 years under the then Chief Minister Narendra Modi ji's leadership to cover about 70% of our state. So when we told them that our objective is to cover the entire state in 3 or 4 years, they laughed at us. They said, Modi ji kar nahi paye, 7-8 saal mein, aap kya karoge, kaise karoge? There were those sarcastic smirks, kya karoge, kaise karoge, kaise mumkin hai, etc., etc. But today, within a matter of 3.5 years, with the initial outlay was about $9 billion, which roughly translates to about, I think, about 60 now, but back then it was, I think, and you know the rupee valuation, etc. About 45 back then. So when we started off, the project looked humongous, honestly. Even our engineer-in-chief, a gentleman called Surendra Reddy, he was my engineer-in-chief back then. When an Honorable CM called us for a meeting and told us, this is something that you have to deliver in 3 years, he almost fell off his chair. He said, sir, we've never done a project which is more than 400 crores. So how do you expect us to do a 45,000 crore project in 3 years? How do we do it? Our Honorable CM said, visit Siddipet, what we've done there, visit Gujarat, and visit whatever you want, whichever country you want to go visit, please go there and visit it. But the fact is, this is doable. There is financial support from the government. Please make it happen. As part of this large project, we were supposed to lay a pipeline of nearly 140,000 kilometers. Now 140,000 kilometers, for those of you who are unaware, I think it is through 2.5 or 3 times the circumference of Earth. That's how big the pipeline is. That's how humongous the effort is. When we were conceptualizing this project, I was not only Minister of Panchayati Raj, but I was also the Minister of Information Technology. So we were talking on how to, it's a challenge, obviously. It's a challenge, and we wanted to do a little bit more than, what Gujarat has done or what any other state has done in the country. So we were also discussing on what else to do, what else to dovetail into the same trench. One of the things we decided is, since we are trenching the entire landscape of Telangana anyway for 140,000 kilometers, we said, why don't we also lay a fiber optic cable? Because this tap water is going to go to every house, and this pipeline is going to go to every house. So we might as well, save cost and dovetail and, piggyback on this project and also put in fiber optic cable. Today, again, I'm happy to share with you Telangana Fiber Grid, the project which was dovetailed and which was piggybacking on the Telangana Mission Bhagiratha, the drinking water project. Today is almost nearing completion. And once it is done, Telangana will again be one of those rare states, few states, which would be offering 100 Mbps broadband connection to each and every home. And the possibilities, you guys know better than me, of e-health, e-commerce, e-education, and how much of a drastic change it can bring about in rural hinterland is something that you can only imagine. You're only limited by your imagination. So when it comes to policy making, when it comes to taking up humongous tasks, our Honorable Chief Minister is a man who does not shy away from a challenge. He also took it upon himself as a challenge. Telangana, like I told you, one of the taglines of the Telangana statehood agitation was, I'll say that in Telugu, Neelu, Nidhulu, Niyamakalu. What that means is water, Nidhulu is funds, money, and Niyamakalu is employment. So water was one of the significant issues as part of the overall Telangana statehood agitation. And our Honorable Chief Minister, having conceptualized a program on drinking water, also wanted to do something equally humongous on irrigation. When we assumed office, farmer suicides were at their highest, possibly one of the highest in the country after Maharashtra. And then the irrigation potential in Telangana was never tapped, because the logic that was always served to us was that the water level of the two rivers here, Krishna and Godavari, is, if you look at the water and the ground, or if you look at the topography of Telangana, the hinterland of Telangana is above, the sea level, much above the sea level. So therefore, it was always, the logic that was served to us was that unless you invest significant amounts in lift irrigation projects, in both power generation and also in building up in capital expenditure, you'll not be able to complete these projects. Our Honorable Chief Minister today, happy to share with you, has not only conceptualized, but has completed, I don't know how many of you know this, the world's largest multi-stage lift irrigation project, called as Kaleshwaram project. You can look it up in Google, YouTube, in a matter of 3.5 years. And this is a project which has brought under cultivation, brought under irrigation, more than 45 lakh acres of arable land. This has drastically changed the fortunes of Telangana. While we are, of course, working on other projects like Palamuru Rangareddy lift irrigation, we are working on Sitarama, we've also not ignored the minor irrigation resources. I went to the US in 2015, again, as a minister. I went to a state called Minnesota. I met the governor there, I met lots of people there, and they always take a lot of pride, calling Minnesota a land of 10,000 lakes. Now, I told them Telangana has more than 46,000 tanks. They were surprised. They said, really? You have 46,000 tanks? We are, in fact, a lot of times, terminology and taxonomy sometimes also is off-putting in a lot of ways for policymakers and in terms of prioritization. When you say minor irrigation, it automatically in your mind becomes a minor source of irrigation. But that's not the case. Under tank irrigation in Telangana, there was a time when there were more than 15 to 20 lakh acres of cultivation. But unfortunately, because of meager allocations with that terminology minor coming into play, governments, one after another, have ignored this specific sector. Allocations were meager, so there was not much that they could do. As a result, irrigation suffered and agriculture suffered. But under our government, we took up another challenging program called as Mission Kakatiya to revive, to strengthen, to ensure that each of the irrigation potential of these minor irrigation tanks is brought back to its full capacity. Happy to share again, out of these 46,000, we've already completed nearly 22,000 tanks, fully strengthened them, revived them, rejuvenated them, under which again, a lot of irrigation potential again has been resurrected. Now, because of all these, today Food Corporation of India, not me saying it, but Food Corporation of India, Ministry of Agriculture, Government of India, has recognized Telangana as the topmost paddy producing state in the country. From a parched region, in a matter of 7 years today, Telangana has become the topmost paddy producing state in the country, which is by no means a small feat. Because this was a region, I come from a constituency called Sirsila, which was drought prone, which was full of, distressed farmers, etc. To have achieved this kind of growth in a very short span is nothing short of astounding. How did our Honorable CM do it? Did he just focus on irrigation? No. He came out with pioneering and path-breaking programs. Farm input assistance. This has never been done by any state or any government in the world, except Telangana. When our Honorable Chief Minister on the 10th of May, 2018, launched a program called Raitu Bandhu, which is farm input assistance. A lot of people scoffed at it. They said, is it doable? Can he do it? Today, we offer farm input assistance for 2 seasons, both Rabi and Kharif, of 5,000 rupees per acre. And it is now running into almost 15,000 crores per annum. It's a DBT, direct benefit transfer to the farmer's account. 62 lakh farmers are benefited every year. As a result, not only has the agricultural production, yield, productivity of farmers in Telangana has increased, but also the suicides of farmers have come down drastically. Telangana again has that unique distinction of being able to reduce the farmers' suicides, and not me saying it. Government of India, on the floor of the House in Parliament, has said it in the recently held Parliament sessions, that Telangana is the #1 state when it comes to reducing farmer suicides in the country. So these are, I can go on and on. There are many things that we've done in the last 7 years. In clean energy, in renewable energy, we are #2 in the country. Today, we are second only to Karnataka. But if you look at land mass and pro rata, I think we are #1 in the country. Because Karnataka is a much, much bigger state than us. So we are #1 on that. And one program I think that many of you will like. Our Honorable Chief Minister is a passionate environmentalist. He's not only a passionate farmer, he's a passionate environmentalist. When we assumed office, the forest cover in Telangana was 23%. Today, after 7 years, again, not me saying it, Government of India saying it, and Forest Research Institute of Government of India saying it, it has increased the forest cover in Telangana from 23 to 28%. So 5% increase in forest cover because of a program called as Harita Haram. Now this Harita Haram is a unique program. It's the 3rd largest effort in human history, for those of you who don't know. Planting 230 crore saplings over a period of 7 years is something that has been not done by any government. Today, anywhere you go in Telangana, any nook and corner, you will see greenery. You will see saplings, avenue plantations. You will see forest blocks being rejuvenated. But we are not going to stop at 28%. Our dream is to get to 33% to begin with, and eventually, again, continue that journey and make Telangana one of those biodiverse regions in our country. I can go on, Bharat. There are many, many things I can say. There are many, many things. I think we'll save that.
We'll open it up for questions, Andy.
I think so. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
I think my own journey, having been born in Hyderabad, raised here, but with roots in Andhra, I was quite sad when the state split, and that as Telugu people we can't be together. But I think now, over the last 7-year journey, I'm proud of the growth that Telangana has achieved, Hyderabad has achieved. And I think this is an example where...
Don't forget what Andhra has achieved also. In fact, we always maintained that separation is going to benefit both states. Yes. In fact, if you look at it, the number of new ports that are coming up in Andhra, that have come up in Andhra, the number of new institutions that have come up in Andhra, it would not have happened if it was United Andhra.
Central government institutions wouldn't have come in Andhra otherwise. It would have been concentrated maybe in Hyderabad. And the other thing is about balancing urban development, urban infrastructure, ensuring that our cities become our economic growth engines, but also ensuring that rural areas, agriculture benefit. And I think that balance has been done very well here. I'd like to open it up. So in the center here are the students of Kautilya. We have some of our faculty participating in this session also. I will take some faculty questions, but most of the questions are going to be directed towards our students at Kautilya. I hope you understand that. Okay, so who all have questions, can you please raise your hands? In blue, female in the front. Please introduce yourself and then ask the question.
Thank
Please
you.
sit, please sit, please sit.
I'm Vinaya, and first of all, we need more politicians like you who actually implement policies, and we see the results of them. So you talked about how you implemented policies, but could you elaborate on any challenges you may have faced while you were implementing this policy, and how you faced those challenges?
Thank you, Vinaya. Which part of India are you from?
Maharashtra.
Maharashtra.
Pune.
Which part of
I'm
Maharashtra?
Pune.
Oh, my place. I went to Pune University. I was at Ganesh Kent for 2 years. Good meeting you. Vinaya, great question. Because, you know, and with all due respect, Meena Saab is here. So I'll take liberties and I'll say a few things about bureaucracy. Meena Saab बुरा ना मानिए क्योंकि अभी तो आप retire हो गए. तो you know, the typical thinking when it comes to bureaucracy in India is उनको लगता है कि ये लोग जो पॉलिटिशियन लोग हैं, पहली बात तो उनको लगता है कि हम ज़्यादा नहीं जानते हैं. मैं सच बोल रहा हूँ. I'm going to tell you a bit bluntly also. उनको लगता है कि वो हमसे ज़्यादा पढ़े लिखे हैं, वो हमसे ज़्यादा स्मार्ट हैं, होशियार हैं, और पूरा प्रोग्राम या जो भी है वही कंसेप्चुलाइज कर सकते हैं, एग्जीक्यूट भी वही कर सकते हैं. और उनको ये भी लगता है कि हम लोग 5 साल के लिए चुने हुए गेस्ट आर्टिस्ट हैं. वो लोग तो परमानेंट आर्टिस्ट हैं, वो जब तक रिटायर होंगे तब तक रहेंगे, 60 साल तक या 61 तक रहेंगे. तो मीना साहब ने तो बहुत सारे मंत्रियों को देखा होगा, बहुत सारे एमएलएस को देखा होगा. इट बी लाइक अरे यार ऐसे ऐसे बहुत सारे लोगों को देखा मैंने. सो ईच टाइम व्हेन वी कम आउट विद अ न्यू आइडिया और अ न्यू पॉलिसी, द इनिशियल रेजिस्टेंस ऑलवेज स्टार्ट्स राइट एट द टॉप. Bureaucracy will resist because see, I'm not blaming a certain section of bureaucracy. I'm saying people by nature are resistant to change. मुझे कोई चीज़ की आदत है. देखिए मैं बेड पे मैं लेफ्ट की साइड सोता हूँ. अगर आप मुझे बोलो कि कल राइट की तरह सो, I'll be completely sleepless. That's how human beings are. We are resistant to change. We are creatures of habit. So bureaucracy in India is the first challenge that has to be overcome by any public representative, because the biggest challenge is for us to, देखिए आप एक चीज समझ लीजिए, when we get elected for 5 years, right? तो जब मैं एमएलए बना 2009 में, मुझे कोई आइडिया नहीं था कि एमएलए का मतलब क्या क्या उसका करने का है, मतलब वो कर क्या सकता है, करना क्या चाहिए उसको. आई नो दैट ही इज अ मेंबर ऑफ लेजिस्लेटिव असेंबली. We are supposed to enact legislations. We are supposed to ensure that, you know, these legislations actually are executed by our bureaucracy. That's the definition broadly. But experiences इतने interesting होते हैं. मैं एक दिन अपने घर पे हूँ, सुबह 6:30 बजे मुझे एक कॉल आया. This was in 2010. एक हमारा पार्टी का एक छोटा लीडर है सिरसिला में, उसने कॉल किया. He says, भैया अर्जेंट है. मैंने बोला क्या हुआ? बोलता है अभी वाटर का टैंकर आया मेरे गली में, जरा उसको बोल के मेरा पॉट है उसको आगे लगवाने के लिए बोल दो. मैं बोला यार मैं एमएलए हूं, आई एम सपोज टू बी एनैक्टिंग लेजिस्लेशंस, और आदमी फोन करके मुझे बोल रहा है कि वाटर टैंकर वाले को बोलो मेरा पॉट आगे लगाए. अब आई वाज अ बिट परप्लेक्स्ड. आई वाज लाइक ओके, व्हाट डू आई डू नाउ? Firstly, because there is no orientation session for a newly elected legislator. You know, there is no public school of policy which kind of guides us, tells us what to do, what not to do. आज क्या हो गया ना, because of social media particularly, मैं किसी को भी कुछ भी बोल सकता हूँ. मैं प्राइम मिनिस्टर को भी बोलता हूँ कि मेरा घर के सामने ड्रेनेज ठीक नहीं है, क्या कर रहे हो तुम, तुम्हारा स्वच्छ भारत क्या हो गया. That is the level of liberty people take, because there is confusion in terms of roles, responsibilities, divisions. कोई किसी को कुछ नहीं पता कि किसको बोलना चाहिए, किसको कंप्लेंट करना चाहिए. See, in India, we have a beautiful system of, 5-tier system of, governance. We have the union government, the state governments, the Zilla Parishads, we have, Taluka Panchayats, and then we have the Gram Panchayats, the 5-tier governance. And there is also the municipal, which kind of is parallel to all of these. So, अब काउंसिलर को क्या करना चाहिए, सरपंच को क्या करना चाहिए, और ZPTC को क्या करना चाहिए, मंडल परिषद प्रेसिडेंट को क्या करना चाहिए, जिला परिषद चेयरमैन को क्या करना चाहिए, एमएलए को क्या करना चाहिए, एमपी को क्या करना चाहिए, ये रोल क्लैरिटी जो है ना, इसमें बहुत कंफ्यूजन है. और इस कंफ्यूजन में इट इज कंपाउंडेड बाय द ब्यूरोक्रेसीज इनहेरेंट रेजिस्टेंस टू चेंज. सो इनिशियली व्हेन वी स्टार्टेड आवर जर्नी, व्हेन आवर ऑनरेबल चीफ मिनिस्टर सेड हमें रैतु बंधु करना है, इनफैक्ट आई सेंड यू हरितहारम करना है, वी प्लांट 230 crore saplings. I'll send you a write-up. In fact, one of our bureaucrats Her name is Shweta Mahanti. She was Hyderabad collector until 3 days ago. She just went on she's gone to Kennedy, in fact. I think she's going to Harvard for a 1-year, I think course on public policy.
Public administration. Maybe.
Public administration. So she wrote a paper. She gave it to me before she left. She wrote a paper on how skeptical she was on day one when Honorable Chief Minister said 230 crore plantation करना है. पहली बात, जब भी कोई ऐसा radical thought सोचते हो, radical idea आता है किसी के मन में, तो हमें लगता है कि ये तो क्या है यार, ये नामुमकिन है, नहीं हो सकता है. So there is that inherent change, inherent resistance. So in our case, when we said Mission Bhagirath, we want to give drinking water connection to each and every home, engineers said no, not possible. We go to Gujarat, even they laugh at us. They say no, नहीं हो सकता. इंडिया में किसी ने किया ही नहीं, तुम क्या करोगे? नया राज है, तुम्हें पता ही नहीं तुम्हारा क्या financial resources क्या है, कैसे करोगे? So all these challenges, but I think one thing that Telangana has shown is that if you have the political will, if you have that ability in you to drive a project with a mission mode, things can happen, things will happen. Even bureaucracy after initial resistance, they'll fall in line. They'll also say, okay, इनका इरादा ठीक है, इनका इरादा नेक है, तो करेंगे, कुछ कर सकते हैं. So fundamental challenge is bureaucracy, firstly. Secondly, finances. Finances, even our institutions, financial institutions in India, are not used to leveraging our economy. डर जाते हैं लोग. आप क्योंकि you're all students of public policy, you should understand economics also. एक गवर्नमेंट चलाना और एक घर चलाना बहुत अलग बात है. घर चलाना मतलब बजटिंग के हिसाब से ठीक ऑलमोस्ट सेम है, but there are a lot of changes. See, for example, a lot of differences. For example, the economy of Telangana today, our per capita income has more than doubled in the last 7 years, which is again by no means a small feat. We are much above the country's per capita income, national average per capita income. How did that happen? That happened because we are leveraging our economy. हम लोग डर नहीं जाते हैं debt से, because as long as you have taken a debt and have invested in a productive have invested it in a productive sector. हमने जब डेट लिया मिशन भागीरथ के लिए या इरिगेशन के लिए, हमने ये सोच के लिया कि 1 रुपया अगर हम डेट लेते हैं, इसको कैसे हम तब्दील कर सकते हैं 2 या 3 रुपया में. As long as you're able to rotate that rupee, as long as you're able to leverage your economy properly, as long as you're able to create more wealth, I think you'll be in good shape. But unfortunately, our financial institutions in India, be it your banks or other financial institutions, they're a bit apprehensive when it comes to lending. And as such, our Indian mentality also, we have FRBM and other restrictions, that. Fiscally responsible, budgetary, monitoring, etc. All of these, challenges that go with a new project being conceptualized definitely ought to be worked out. And the third challenge I would say are inherent to our governance systems. For example, हम एक irrigation project बनाना चाहते हैं, additional irrigation area हम under cultivation लाना चाहते हैं, उससे environment को, biodiversity को फायदा होगा या नुकसान होगा? इस बात को लेकर दिल्ली में MOEF में बहुत चर्चा होता है, Ministry of Environment and Forest, और बहुत सारे hurdle भी लगाए जाते हैं. So all of these challenges we have faced in the last 7 years, financial, bureaucratic, and general mindset challenges, institutional challenges, but I think to a great extent we've been able to overcome.
Thank you, sir. Rawson, over there, grey shirt.
Good morning, sir. My name is Rawson Gonsalves. So one thing that we have seen world over is the effect of climate change, including our country. You're the Minister of Municipal Administration and Urban Development. So I want to understand from you, how is sustainability and climate risk incorporated in policy making, especially in these portfolios that you hold?
Roshan, right?
Rawson.
Yeah.
Which part of India are you from, Roshan?
Mumbai, sir.
Mumbai. Roshan, three things. Climate change is real. It's no more what we read in books, etc. I think if you look at the UN report a couple of days ago, they've even said, code red for humanity. They said, high time you guys take charge, otherwise there's no humanity. So it is real. But what is happening also, since you talked urban development, is whatever urbanization that has happened in last 5,000 years, double or triple of that is going to happen in the next 50 years. That's how much urbanization is happening across the world, not just India. In fact, suburbanization and urbanization are two phenomena which no government in India has been able to tackle. Not in India, across the world. In fact, China tried it. They said, in fact, they even came out with a permit system for people to move from rural areas to, urban pockets. And they said, we'll only permit a certain number and not more, so that rapid urbanization can be contained. But nobody has been successful. Now, why do people actually move? Why do people migrate? Why do people urbanize? I think we need to answer that question firstly. Firstly, for better livelihood, better healthcare, better employment, better education opportunities. These are the three things. Now, when people do migrate, what happens is obviously the urban infrastructure, which is never on par with our growing urbanization, will crumble. What happens when urban infrastructure crumbles? I was just looking at the road leading to Geetam. I should tell Bharat, to also lay a better road all the way from road till your university. यहाँ मोड़ने के बाद ठीक है, but वहाँ तक ठीक नहीं है. आपको
I have something to say on this, but after this is over, I'll tell you.
Come on, you should be doing some CSR also, no, Geetam? What do you guys say? Clap if you agree with me. See, Bharat, they all agree with me. Point is, this will happen. There's no substitute. I mean, the kind of population that we are. Look at Hyderabad. We are one of the largest cities in India. We are among one of the 7 largest metros in India. And our population grows every year, every month, every day, every week. Are we on par? I think we are much better than any other city in India, but I can't be relatively happy, right? Our drinking water, in fact, we don't have to get pani in tankers like Chennai does. We are not as bad as Mumbai in a lot of counts in terms of infrastructure. मेरा एक दोस्त आया था मुंबई से 2-4 दिन पहले, वो बोल रहा था कि आपका इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हमसे बेहतर है. तो मैंने कहा मैं रिलेटिव कंफर्ट तो नहीं लूंगा, बट थैंक यू. सस्टेनेबिलिटी की जब आप बात करते हो, रोशन, I think we are doing our bit, but it's just not enough. I think it can't just be the role of a government. And the word sustainability, it permeates into all sectors, all spheres of life. It's not just confined to rural development or urban development or industry or, or this or that. I can't confine myself to that. It kind of permeates into all of that. And unless we as humanity collectively take charge, a government by itself can't do it. Sir, Telangana government has launched what is called as Haritaharam, one effort. Now, Government of India has yesterday announced that all ban on plastic from July next year. I'm thinking to myself, I want to do it as a responsible citizen, but what is the substitute for plastic? वो तो दिखाओ पहले. सस्ता जो substitute है वो दिखा के बात करो. ऐसे ही पॉलिसी बनाने से कुछ नहीं होता है, स्लोगन देने से कुछ नहीं होता है. अगर मैं कल तक बोल दूं पूरा इंडिया को डिजिटाइज करो, उससे क्या होता है? उसका डिजिटल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर चाहिए, डिजिटल लिटरेसी चाहिए, डिजिटल अवेयरनेस चाहिए, ट्रेनिंग चाहिए, स्किल अपग्रेडिंग चाहिए. ये सब करने के बाद अगर आप स्लोगन देते हो तो सक्सेसफुल होगा. सस्टेनेबिलिटी पे भी हमारी गवर्नमेंट ने कुछ किया है, बट आई थिंक देयर इज लॉट मोर टू बी डन, बट दिस हैज टू बी डन कलेक्टिवली एंड नॉट just can't be a government's responsibility.
Thank you. So in the students, I want the ones who haven't yet asked a question. So if you have, then put your hand down so that I know who hasn't asked a question. Are you cheating? Okay, yeah. Red shirt here. Yeah.
Good morning, sir. My name is Audumbar and I come from Kolhapur, Maharashtra. My question is, how does this public policy course will help me to work at the grassroots level? Because when we have a discussion in our cohort, most of the people think that they want to work at the international level, international organizations or the central government like Niti Aayog. But if I come from grassroots, how do you think there will be an opportunity to work at the district level or block level?
What did you say your name was?
Your name.
Audumbar.
Yeah. Unique name, boss. मतलब क्या हुआ इसका?
It's a local traditional Marathi name for deity Brahma.
अच्छा, deity Brahma. Nice, Audumbar. Good meeting you.
Yeah.
How does it help me at a grassroots level?
Yeah.
Great question. Please sit. Firstly, I think there is no substitute to real learning, boss. क्योंकि मैंने कोई कोर्स तो लिया नहीं, और मैं जब चुन के आया एक लेजिस्लेटर बन के, मुझे लगे 3-4 साल समझने में, सीखने में. क्योंकि जितना भी हम लोग पढ़ाई करते हैं, जैसे अगर आप इंजीनियरिंग भी करते हो या कोई भी कोर्स करते हो, जब तक आप एक्चुअली रियल वर्ल्ड में जाके काम नहीं करते, जब तक आपकी हैंड्स डर्टी नहीं करते, टिल यू गेट योर हैंड्स डर्टी, यू वोंट रियली कॉम्प्रिहेंड द रियल वर्ल्ड प्रॉब्लम्स. बिकॉज हम जो सीखते हैं, समझते हैं, हमें जो पढ़ाया जाता है वर्सेस जो एक्चुअल सच्चाई है, बहुत ज़्यादा बार फर्क होता है. हाउ डज इट हेल्प? इट डज हेल्प you go in better prepared. See, if you want to sort of implement policy at a grassroots level. You said Zilla Parishad level or a block level. It will help you understand कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया की या स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की जो पॉलिसी मेकिंग है और उसका इम्प्लीमेंटेशन है उसमें क्या कमियां हैं, उसको आप कैसे मतलब प्रॉपर्ली एक्सप्लॉइट कर सकते हो, या उसको प्रॉपर्ली आप हाउ विल यू बी एबल टू कन्विंस पीपल और हेल्प पीपल अंडरस्टैंड कि क्या क्या बनाए. बहुत सारे बार क्या होता है ना, हम जो कानून बनाते हैं पार्लियामेंट में या लेजिस्लेचर में, मैं सच बोलूं तो इसका ज्यादातर पार्लियामेंटेरियंस और लेजिस्लेटर्स को भी पूरी तरह से अंदाजा नहीं होता है. हम लोग हाँ या ना बोल देते हैं, आई यस नो यस, खत्म, बिल पास कर दिए, हो गया. बट कितने लोग एक्चुअली पढ़ते हैं, फाइन प्रिंट कितने लोग देखते हैं, और उसका जो इम्प्लीमेंटेशन है जिसमें बहुत सारा फायदा हो सकता है लोगों को, वो कितने लोग समझ पाते हैं. नाउ दैट इज वेयर यू गाइस कैन कम इन एंड हेल्प both the public representatives and the public. And I think you can be that brilliant bridge between people who make these legislations and people who actually are expected to be the beneficiaries. So अगर आप कोई experiment, अगर आप कोई एक act लेते हो, for example, one of the more popular acts in India is right to information. जब कानून बनाया गया, initially उसका power शायद ज़्यादा लोगों को समझ नहीं आया होगा, but बाद में जैसा activist have started using it, NGOs have started using it, and have started exposing their governments at Zilla level, at state level, at central government level. Today the politicians are more alert कि भाई RTI में पूछा जाएगा, कुछ हम लोग अनशन करते हैं, गड़बड़ करते हैं, और जो चीज़ हम नहीं कर सकते हैं अगर वो करते हैं और कमिट हो जाते हैं तो ये बाहर आएगा जरूर एक ना एक दिन. ये डर उनके मतलब मन में कहीं बैठा रहता है. और जब एक सिविल सोसाइटी एक बहुत अलर्ट रहती है और चुस्ती से काम लेती है, जैसे आप हो, ट्रेंड हो, तो यू कैन सर्टनली कॉन्ट्रीब्यूट, यू कैन वर्क एज अ चेकमेट टू बोथ पब्लिक रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स एट अ सर्टेन लेवल, टू गवर्नमेंट्स, एंड ऑल्सो यू कैन हेल्प पीपल कि एक एक्ट या एक लेजिस्लेशन कैसे कैसे उसका फायदा हम उठा सकते हैं. जैसा अभी मैंने बोला डीबीटी के बारे में बोला, आपको शायद याद होगा राजीव गांधी जी ने एक बार कहा था, प्राइम मिनिस्टर थे वो, तब उन्होंने कहा था कि मैं दिल्ली में ₹1 अगर रिलीज करता हूं, वो नीचे आते आते 16 पैसा बन जाता है, बीच में कोई 84 पैसा खा जाता है. दिस इज व्हाट प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ इंडिया सेड, नॉट मी. बट आज जब डीबीटी आ गया, मैं रैतु बंधु अभी बोल रहा था, मैं रैतु बंधु जब आ गया तो 100% पैसा फार्मर को मिलता है. यहां हैदराबाद में रिलीज करते हो, उनके अकाउंट में 100% जाता है. हमको देख के पीएम साहब ने भी इंस्पिरेशन लिया और उन्होंने पीएम किसान चालू कर दिया. अच्छी बात है. तो ये सारे चीज जो है मतलब स्टडी करने के लिए डीबीटी, अब बहुत सारे इकोनॉमिस्ट बोलते हैं कि डीबीटी बहुत अच्छी प्रोग्राम है. हम रैतु बंधु हमने चालू किया, एक और प्रोग्राम हमने चालू किया यहाँ पे कल्याण लक्ष्मी, लड़की मतलब अगर बालिक है 18+ हैं, उनके शादी के गरीब है तो तेलंगाना गवर्नमेंट 1 लाख प्लस रुपये देती है. इससे क्या हो गया ना, यहाँ पे चाइल्ड मैरिजेस कम हो गए, और यहाँ पे हम लोग एक KCR किट करके देते हैं इंस्टीट्यूशनल डिलीवरी को इंकरेज करने के लिए. उससे आज तेलंगाना में इंस्टीट्यूशनल डिलीवरी फ्रॉम 30% to 50% बढ़ गया. इन्फेंट मोर्टालिटी कम हो गया, मेटर्नल मोर्टालिटी कम हो गया, और सिजेरियन ऑपरेशन कम हो गया. ऑल ऑफ दिस कैन बी स्टडीड बाय यू गाइस. यू कैन एक्सप्लेन टू पीपल एंड द लॉ मेकर्स कि कौन सा चीज काम करता है, कौन सी आपकी पॉलिसी काम कर रही है और कौन सी फेल हो गई है. लोगों को भी समझा सकते हैं और दूसरी तरफ आप एक ड्यूअल रोल प्ले करके गवर्नमेंट्स को भी समझा सकते हैं. एंड आई थिंक पब्लिक पॉलिसी विल हेल्प यू अचीव दैट.
I think that's a great suggestion. We get the pink lady here.
Yeah. Okay, I had the mic. Okay.
Oh, you have the, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Poonam, go for it.
Hi.
Namaskaram, KTR Garu. I'm Poonam.
Hi.
And first of all, I would like to congratulate you for Ramappa on a cultural aspect. You've spoken about beautiful policies which have been undertaken by your government. And first thing I would like to know that what are the steps taken when you come up with a policy? And secondly, the recent Dalit Bandhu scheme which has been announced. Is it really practical? Because the amount of money which has been announced for Dalit Bandhu, why right now? And the amount of money which will be, spent on that scheme is huge. So is it even practical? That's my question.
Thank you, Poonam. Firstly, thanks on Ramappa. I think it's a great honor for Telangana and the country also, in fact, to get a UNESCO World Heritage Tag for one of our brilliant, traditional heritage structures. And it was the first structure in Telangana, which again, I'm very, very proud of. And hopefully we'll even get that for Hyderabad eventually, because Hyderabad, I keep saying, is one of those rare cities which has a combo of both heritage and the new age vibe. So Hyderabad should get it also. Let's all work towards it. Now, your question about practicality of Dalit Bandhu and other schemes. Poonam, 2-3 things for you to think. Firstly, yes, it's a bold reform. It's very, very bold. It's very, very radical. And our Honorable Chief Minister can only dream big. That's his problem. He can't think small. He can't think big, dream small. When he thought about Raitu Bandhu, the same question popped up. A lot of people said, is it practical? Is it feasible? Will it work? We've not only done Raitu Bandhu successfully, we have now set the tone for the rest of the country. Today, about 11 states have come out with their own programs. In Odisha, they call it Kalia. In Bengal, they call it Krishi Bandhu or Krishak Bandhu, I think it's called. And like I said, Honorable Prime Minister himself took it upon. I think he took so much liking to the scheme, he also adopted it. He calls it PM Kisan. So Raitu Bandhu became a trendsetter that way. Like I told you, Mission Bhagirath, again, it became a source of inspiration for Jal Jeevan Mission. And today they're trying to implement it across the country. Mission Kakatiya, again, has become a role model for the rest of the country. I firmly believe, Poonam, that 75 years of independence, Azadi ke Amrit Utsav, kya bolte hain wo? Amrit, whatever. Amrit Utsav. Right. So Prime Minister ji ne bulaya tha hame, पिछली साल. बुला के उन्होंने पूछा था, all political parties he had called. He conducted a meeting, he said, बताइए अब क्या-क्या करना चाहिए. 150 साल बापू के birth anniversary और आज़ादी के 75 years, क्या-क्या करना चाहिए. तो उसमें मैं भी गया था as a party functionary from TRS. So I told him 3 things. Sir, I said, the 3I mantra, if India really has to propel itself into the next league, next orbit, the 3I mantra is what I think we ought to be focusing on. Innovation, infrastructure, inclusive growth. Now I'll start with the third one, inclusive growth. मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ inclusive growth माने? आज अगर आप इंडिया में देखते हो 75 years के बाद, like I think Obama or somebody said very famously, there are 2 Americas. There is that America and there is, this America. Likewise, India एक India है, एक भारत है. आज इंडिया में 75 years के बाद भी दलित की अगर आप हालत देखोगे तो बहुत खराब है, in spite of reservations, in spite of whatever has been done. So if you look at it, the model for 20th century when it was about Dalits and how do we emancipate them, it was through social justice reservations. But 75 years of experimentation has not worked. When plan A doesn't work, you have to think radically, you have to come to some other alternative. Now, why only Dalits? A lot of people question. Why can't it be, why is there no minority Bandhu? Why is there no tribal Bandhu? Why is there no BC Bandhu? Why not other subgroups and social groups? Is it good to kind of segregate the society and do it this way? I would say, most definitely, if you look at any statistics, socio-economic indicators and statistics, Dalit as a community across the country, while they are scheduled under the Constitution, they're a scheduled category under the Constitution, they're still the most downtrodden on any socio-economic indicator in the country. And they form a significant percentage of our population. They are about 16 to 17% in Telangana. And if you look at the country, I think I'm not very sure about the number, but it's quite substantial. If you leave out a certain sizable section of the population, even after 75 years, ignore them and continue to ignore them in spite of knowing fully well that none of your previous policies have worked, I think we are doing a great injustice, not just to ourselves, but our country and our future generations also. This is, yes, it's a bold experiment. It will require a lot of capital. But like I was pointing out to Vinaya, in my previous question, आप अगर एक बार ठीक से समझते हो, we are not just giving away money. It's not like we are giving away money unhinged and unconditional. We are saying कि each family को जो 10 लाख रुपया दिया जाएगा under Dalit Bandhu, it has to be productively leveraged and it has to be converted, it has to be doubled or tripled over a period of time. That's the goal. And we are not just going to give money and, let them be. Our collectors, our nodal officers will work with them in helping set up mini dairies, in helping set up rice mills, in helping set up small micro units, and we'll ensure that somebody will move from BPL, below the poverty line, to above poverty line. That is the eventual goal of Dalit Bandhu. Yes, you're right. It will take significant, it will have a significant strain on budget. 1,70,000 crores is the initial estimate. But it will be phased out. It will happen over a period of next 4, 5, 6 years. Each year we'll be looking at about 3 or 4 lakh families altogether. In Telangana, it is anticipated that there are about 17 lakh families. So if you spread it over a 5-year program, as a 5-year program, then you have to cover about 3 lakh plus people, 3 lakh plus families every year. And you have to remember one thing. Each rupiah you spend in your state on any DBT or any program, it will come back to the state in the form of revenues also. We have spent nearly 1 lakh crores on irrigation. More than 15% of that has come back in the form of taxes to the state. It contributes to your growing economy. तो आपको ऐसा नहीं लगना चाहिए कि हम लोग ये कर जायज कर रहे हैं, वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, ऐसा नहीं है. If you're able to lift this one section from BPL to APL, then I think that is the greatest service our government would have done to our country. I am a very firm believer, Poonam, that Honorable Chief Minister's program so far, whatever he's dreamed of, he's been successful. And once he's set his eyes on something, he's achieved it. And this will also become a role model for the rest of the country. I firmly believe that. And this is something that we have to do 75 years after independence. We can't, we can't live in denial. कल हम लोग देख रहे थे अफगानिस्तान में क्या हो रहा है. The entire world is in denial. The entire world is looking the other way. The so-called United Nations, the so-called other, powerful countries of the world. We are seeing all these horrific pictures, but we continue to look the other way. The powerful leaders, who want to be regional superpowers and all, we seem to ignore them. I'm saying the same logic applies here as well. We can't continue to ignore the Dalits, the tribals and others. We started with Dalits. Tomorrow, who knows? Our Honorable Chief Minister might say, let us help others also, and we might even take up several programs. But for now, I think this is the agenda. We are going to go ahead in spite of what the naysayers have said all along. Even when he started the Telangana movement, a lot of people said this is impossible. It's an impossible dream. But he's a man who's made possible out of impossible. So this is also possible, and I believe in it.
I'm completely in alignment with that, sir. I just want to build, I think, when